All right, so today we're learning about increasing, decreasing, and constant. So we have a graph here that is doing some increasing, going up, doing some decreasing, going down, and some constant, which is flat. So it says on what intervals is the graph increasing? So if I'm thinking about increasing, I'm thinking about where the graph is going up. We're always going from left to right, so where I see the graph going up or a positive slope. So here, if I'm traveling from left to right, I see that we're going down, and then I see for this section of the graph we're going up. So that's one place where we are increasing, and then it's flat, and then it's decreasing. So there's only one place where it's increasing here, and that is from -3 to 0. We're always marking this on the x-axis because we want to say like for what, when it says what intervals, they always mean on the x-axis. So from -3 to 0. At this exact point, it is not increasing, so I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses. And at this exact point, it is not increasing, so all the way until 0, it is increasing. So from -3 to 0. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing for decreasing. I know that we have this section over here where we're decreasing, as well as this section here. So if I was thinking about where it's decreasing, it's these two. This is where the graph is going down, right? If you're thinking about it, this is like a negative slope. So it's going down in two places. So it starts going down at -5 and continues going down until -3. So I'm going to write that as my first interval. And then remember we use the U to mean or. And then it starts going down again at +4. And it continues going down until the x value of 6. So that is where the graph is decreasing. For constant, constant means where the graph is flat. This is our zero slope. Our zero slope, so where the graph is flat is right here. And that is our constant. So that's happening from 0 until 4. From 0 until 4, it is constant. So we're kind of telling a story with our graph. We're saying that it's decreasing from -5 to -3. That's where we're talking about this part here. It's increasing from -3 to -1 or to 0. That's this part here. From 0 to 4, it's constant, and from 4 to 6, it's decreasing. So you can see all of those pieces are there. Okay. So that's one way we can talk about the graph, with increasing, decreasing, and constant. Another way we can talk about the graph is whether it is above the x-axis, below the x-axis, or touching the x-axis. So we see it written in this notation here, where f of x is equal to 0, f of x is greater than 0, or f of x is less than 0. So for where it's equal to 0, this is just where it is touching the x-axis, right? So we can think about that as like this part of the graph. So it's asking on what intervals is f of x equal to 0? Well, only at this spot right here, this spot right here, and this spot right here is it equal to 0. So I would say where x is equal to -3, where it's equal to 0, and where it's equal to 6. You might also sometimes see this written with this squiggly bracket like this, and we would write -3, 0, and 6, and then squiggly bracket like that. So sometimes you might see it written like that. That is like, if you remember our discrete functions from a couple lessons ago, that is those individual points. Okay. And then another way that we might have it is where f of x is greater than 0. So this is saying greater than 0. And the graph is greater than 0 when it is above the x-axis. So all of this time up here, it is going to be greater than 0. So if I think about that just for the part that's on the graph, I'd say that it's above 0 from here and then down, and then right there it's at 0, so it's going to stop for a second, and then it's going to start up again and go this way, and then this part here. So for all of that yellow section, it is greater than 0. So I'd say that it starts being greater than 0 at -3, and it's greater than 0 all the way until it hits this part right here at 0. And the reason I'm going to stop is because at that exact point, it's equal to 0. It's not greater than 0. So at that exact point, I have to pick up my pencil, and then I'm going to put a U, and then it starts back up again right away. So from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then at 6, it's going to stop being greater than 0. So those are the places where it is above the x-axis. Finally, we have our section where it says f of x is less than 0. And f of x is less than 0, or y is less than 0 on the negative portion. So down here, anywhere down there is going to be below the x-axis. So if we're thinking about our time where the graph is below the x-axis, we're thinking about just this part, and then it's above, and then it comes back, and it's below. Right, so two different portions of the graph. So I'd say, okay, it starts at -5, and that's the beginning. It's at this point, it's a closed circle, so I'm going to go ahead and put a bracket, and then it goes up until -3. And at -3, it's not positive or negative, it's on the x-axis, so I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses. And then it takes a break, it does the yellow portion, and then at 5, what is that? No, 6. At 6, it starts up again and goes until 7. So I'd say from 6 to 7, and at 7, it is 100% under the line, so I'm going to put a bracket like that. So if you were thinking about a graph that goes like up and down a lot, I would say that this portion is below. This is where it touches the x-axis, and this is where it is above. Right? So I would write the intervals for each of those differently. And that's about it. Ask the TAs any questions you have, and go ahead and ask me any questions you have as well. Thanks, guys.